QMD comes out, they want to look at your records, you'll have those. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and let Eddie talk about the generator breaker.
All right, this is the 12 kV generator breaker for the unit. The way this system is set up, this breaker is normally going to be open, just like it is now. You get the annunciation on the breaker or on the engine control panel that the breaker's open. I believe SCADA knows it now that the breaker's open, so there's, the plant knows that this breaker's open. When you lose utility, it goes into a transfer type mode. The switchgear will send a start signal to our engine. It'll fire it up. When it senses it's at rated frequency and voltage, the switchgear gets a signal from our engine to tell it to go ahead and transfer. Once it gets that signal to transfer, it closes this breaker. During the outage, this breaker stays closed, supplying the load. When utility comes back, I'm sure Joe talked about it, the normal transfer, how that works. It'll actually open our breaker. It'll issue a cool down command to the engine for 5 minutes. The question was presented by somebody here that, John, that what happens if you have an outage while we're in cool down? If you have an outage while it's in cool down and the switchgear sends me another start command, it'll just transfer and go to town again. It won't shut down and then start back up again. So their timers and things in that switchgear, they'll tell it, there's a certain time that it'll go back to utility, I'm sure. I'm not too sure about that, but the integral part of this system is this breaker has to close to supply your load. Things that can happen to you that may not allow that is this has overcurrent, both instantaneous and time overcurrent. So if something happens and there's a short, inrush is too high, something like that, it'll trip the breaker. This breaker will get tripped. The way to do that is you're going to have an 86 lockout. It's this that'll lock out the breaker from reclosing until you acknowledge it. You have to reset the fault, close the 86, and then you can physically close this breaker if the interlock strategy is satisfied, where you have the utility down. Once you reset that, the switchgear is going to be issuing a close command. So once you reset it, the breaker is going to close. So don't let it, get you excited, because that's what's supposed to happen. There's an automatic. It's automatic. You're not supposed to have to go in here and touch that breaker for any reason. One thing to be aware of: the load side of this breaker right now is hot. Okay. I don't want to open this up because that's 70E. We've got to have our class suits on and everything else if we want to open that up. So the breaker is open. That's the way it's supposed to be. There's 12 kV on the back side. There's a lockout strategy that will not let you close this breaker. Don't try to close it. All you're going to do is backfeed that if it happens. But there is protection for people that don't pay attention to what they're doing. So the breaker, again, is an integral part in how this system's going to work. If that breaker's locked out, you're going to have no power. So the first thing I would do is, if you see no power and you have an outage and this is running, open this door up, and then you've got enunciations for breaker open, breaker closed, overcurrent, and ground fault. You also have a ground fault indication. So if there is a ground, you got a fault on the output side of this somewhere, it's going to trip on a ground fault. You can try resetting it. If it trips again, you're out of business. You've got a fault somewhere. So just be aware of that. So it's pretty basic. There's not a whole lot here, but there's a whole lot that can cause problems, for you. We did the test. Everything was fine, but that's just one thing to look at. If you see the generator running, the switchgear, it's in the closed position, transferred. This would probably be my next bet to look at to make sure you don't have a fault showing up on there.
There's also ground fault protection too.
Yeah, that's what I was
mentioned that.
Ground fault protection. An easy way to see this without really even opening this door is there's a mechanical switch wired to that SCADA annunciation, so you should see breaker closure. If you don't see breaker closure, you open this door, you walk in here, you don't see this red light lit for breaker status, and you see an open, then your next step would be to walk over here, open that door, make sure you don't have a fault. Make sense? So the thing that will surprise you is if you reset the 80, you reset the overcurrent trip or ground fault, you reset the 86, the breaker should immediately try to close. So be aware of that when you're standing up here around it. So, and if it recloses and you get another overcurrent, you need to back off and figure out where it's at. So, that's pretty much it. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of your other standby systems, and the reason why I say this is this kind of differs from your other units, where usually the breaker stays closed and it's a pretty benign part of the system, and the switchgear does the rest. But this system, they're using the breaker as part of the ATS control. So just want to make you aware of that, because if you're thinking normal thoughts like this is supposed, you open the door and go, oh shit, the breaker's open, try to close it. You can't close it. There's a reason why you can't close it, because it's hot and it'll try to motor my generator. So, make sense?
Whoever wants it, I've got a little proposal for extended on the engine if you want it. Engine generator.
2 years from what date?
From today. Yeah, today's going to be the date in service. Yeah, today will be the date in service. And with that in mind, why don't we close the doors, and we're going to let Mr. Pelly.
I'll walk around.
Eddie will close the doors, and Mr. Pelly's going to hit the start button. Nathan, you don't have to record the engine running.
Actually, you want to hit the record button.
Is it still on?
Yeah.
We don't want that. Where's it?
Future, when it was today, I can only start it over here, we can start generating, operate all that, switch this. Right, now what do we do? You want to do a load on it? Let us know.
Hey Mitch,
Yeah.
you know to tell him how to bypass the. He knows how to
Is it off now?
bypass the.
We're going to
Oh, I didn't push anything there.
So you know how to bypass.